Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. This episode recapping week 3 of February 2024. Chris, there were some absences. I think they were felt at times, even though I'll listen to not just Jim and Sam, but Jim or Sam by themselves any day. You can it's an ensemble show, I think it's become. So you kind of feel when guys are out a little bit.
I thoroughly agree. We had Troy out, we had Travis out, Sam did a couple of days from the house. So yeah, it's just not the same unless they're all there and able to give each other grief and just interact. So yeah, I agree with you. It was a little different. They did a good job in bringing us some entertainment using some guys we are familiar with from the days of old. But yeah, it was a different type of week, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I obviously did too. I mean, it's always great, but it's like an embarrassment of riches. Like we are very spoiled
We
that
are spoiled.
everyone who is like not even an on-air talent can just kind of chime in and carry conversation, be hilarious, tell hilarious stories. So yeah, I think it kind of also reminds you of, oh wow, like there's all these guys on the show that are great. I mean, before Travis was out, I think he chimed in when they revisited Sam's parallel parking from the Opie and Anthony days, where Jess they kind of had to do a little fire drill and had to trade with Jess so she could parallel park. I think I might know somebody who has a similar story.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't recall ever seeing this video myself, although I'm sure I did. And Sam was just talking that he had a weekend filled with taking the kids to birthday parties because his wife is still recuperating and has the infant at home. And so he said, she can't drive. She's not supposed to drive or something like that. So that's kind of what led to this discussion of having your wife parallel park for you. I'm guilty of it. Now, see, I grew up in suburban Denver, Colorado, right? You always
Sure.
had a parking spot. You didn't really have to parallel park too much. It wasn't tight like these city streets here in Chicago.
Gosh.
My wife's a city girl, man, born and raised in Chicago. We had a van when the kids were young. I would get us there and I would pull up to I know how to do it. You pull up and match your steering wheel with their steering wheel. I know how to do it, but she's a Jedi Knight at it. So I'd get us there, tag off and let her do it. And she could do it all the time. She is fantastic at parallel parking. How about you? Do you ever struggle with
I
those?
am it's one of the few things I'm very good at. And
There you go.
I always like the challenge too. Like, is this going to be tight? Let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Nice.
And I love when you could just do it in one swoop. And it's
One
like, you got some people in the car, might have my wife, kids, sometimes maybe like the brother-in-law joins us and like, oh wow, okay. So this is a nice little pick me up I use it for, I think.
So if we
But
ever go
geography
see
is an excuse.
Jim, yes, of course. If we ever go see Jim or Sam in the city, you're going to drive because you'll be able to get us the primo parking spot that we don't have to pay for.
Because I've talked about it now, I will feel more pressure, but maybe you can record it for the podcast too. Maybe
Yes, we'll make sure.
even
You
more
bet.
challenging. But yeah, speaking of how they got into the parallel parking reminder, Sam talking about the birthday parties, I completely agree, and Travis chimed in on this too, is not even just especially birthday parties, because if you're the parents hosting, and I know it's like this for you too, but I think it is more expensive now.
Yeah.
Like if you rent out at Chuck E. Cheese or something, I think Chuck E. Cheese is one of the more affordable ones now. Like there are all these kind of like play places that Sam was talking about.
We
But
call those Chucky disease
Chuck E.
instead of Chucky
Cheese,
because
but they
those
are
ball
they
pits
are
are kind of gross. But go
hundreds
ahead.
hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And even at like we just did a meetup with some friends a few weeks ago, and our son's friends with their kids. We become friends with the parents. Goes Pizza Place that I grew up going to, but now they changed it because they have a cool arcade room. It's just a pizza place and arcade room, but they changed it so you load up a card and they put it on. The kids can just touch it on the arcade games and play. But my God, does that go fast? It
It sure
was
does.
just to play some games and have pizza was a couple $100s.
That's crazy.
So
We're
it's
out here. I'm a little bit further west than you are, away from the city, and there's a ton of warehouses and whatnot. So those, bouncy places and
right.
trampoline things, they're all kids' party stuff. Now, my kids, of course, are old. We don't really do that much anymore. I remember, like, I think like Jim was talking about, I just had family parties when I was growing up or going to a
Yeah.
kid's party and we just hang out like in the backyard, like they were alluding to. It's a little different now. And I can see how it's an expense for guys, in your boat right now, raising kids that are younger now. And it was an expense when my kids were younger too. So Yeah, it's crazy, and you get your, like Sam said, half a slice of pizza because it cut it small for the kids.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember Sam talking about too, like when he was little, also going to like leaps and bounds and Discovery Zone. So it's kind of something that started a little bit when I was little. I think it was pretty affordable then because I there was a lot of those parties when I was little.
Yeah.
But Jim understood that this is kind of could be stressful for Sam to not just have to, when it's his kids, put the money down, but also regardless to have to start a conversation with the parents at the parties. So Jim offered to help, and I thought this was a really good idea that Sam should take him up on. Jim offered to do what, Chris? To have a
Well,
conversation starter.
yeah, I mean, it's so hard. Both Jim and Sam really don't like small talk. They're not great at it for with people. Sam will be in those social settings a little bit more and willing to do that, but Jim doesn't. So Jim thought, hey, I know what you can do. Just bring some autographed headshots of me and give those out to people. Tell them that you're on a radio show with Jim Norton, and they'll just love you. They want to talk more and more about radio. Hilarious.
Well, you know what? If me or you were at a kids party and somebody signed us a signed headshot of Jim Norton, that might be the best kids party or party in general I've ever been to.
Yeah, I mean, but the odds of that happening, right? It's a little slim. So yeah, I would definitely love if Jim would have that and being at a party with Sam. So yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't think that's going to go over too well and quite an embarrassment for Sam, I would think.
The odds should be greater. That should happen at every party. It should
Yes,
be a goodie
we
bag
should.
for the parents. Uh, Speaking of goodies, hot dog brings the show to a screeching halt for like a couple minutes. He walks in. This is Tuesday. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah, Travis is
Yep.
still in. Um, just his presence and kind of walking in like we talked about before. When he sets up shot, he does it late. He just walks in kind of late. Has a musk, an aroma of a lot of cologne, too much cologne. Um, and here's the thing, though. I think I was saying last week that he is growing on me as much. Like I love that that happened, and also he didn't really like try to ham it up. Like that just happened. They commented on it and they were able to move on. He didn't like just plant his feet like, oh yeah, but this is like he kind of just I think he did like finish probably setting up whatever he's setting up.
Yeah, I think he did a little bit better. I don't know. For me, as you well know, I kind of hold a grudge on some of these guys, and I'm just hot dog is because he does the same kind of stuff either I used to do, or I
Yeah.
know something about that. I'm just like, ugh, this guy. So yeah, it was fine. And I had an interesting thought here, and stay with me on
All
this
right.
one. I was watching him shoot those things, and I know he shot when Neil deGrasse Tyson was in, right? And he
I
was doing
think
all
you're
the
right.
video there. And I was kind of going, I saw a video of that interview with Neil and Jim in the studio. Sam was at home, so Sam was had some video rolling at home, and that was all put together in a 29-minute video of Neil's appearance, and it was on not Sam's YouTube channel and not Sirius's, and I'm just going, okay, so these guys have been complaining, justifiably so, that they don't have the cameras turned on and no one's recording it. They've taken in matters into their own hands and they're recording it. And now Sam is actually putting it out there on his channel for us. I mean, what else is going to be done? Like Sirius is going to have them, put it on in podcast form that would only be on Jim and Sam's podcast. What is going on? Sirius has to step up, and these guys are great and do what you're supposed to do. Even these guys, I'm sorry, I'm getting on my little soapbox here, but even Jim and Sam were talking about how no one does any social media for them, and they could. It's so easy. Just cut some clips. It's so easy, and it should be done.
Yeah, I think it just got tired of waiting. Like if you look through the clips from Jim and Sam that Sirius includes on their socials or YouTube, like it's very, very few and far in between. We've heard him complain about not getting videotaped forever and having to like send a request. And like sometimes that gets denied. I think it's been denied quite a few times. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't blame him at all. And like, not to bring up a certain someone, but Opie has for years has had Jim and Sam clips on his YouTube when he was still on the show. It started. So going back, I don't know if there was a video issue then. I don't know if they were even doing it. Sirius was even doing any video, but yeah, you go back years, and
Years.
and there's Opie and Anthony video on Opie's
Right.
YouTube. So Sam's
Maybe.
following suit. More power to him. He'll get a bunch of
Yeah,
views.
absolutely. I
Money.
had one more take on hot dog
Good.
too, because
Yeah,
I
go
was
for it.
watching that video with Neil deGrasse Tyson and one that he shot recently. And dude is in shots. He walks behind the guests. You see him on his phone, it looks like, on the side. And then there's a shot of Jim. So Neil is in studio, looks great. His shot is well exposed, great color. Then there's a shot of Sam. We know Sam has a good setup and he has good color. Shot of Jim looks washed out. It looks completely like maybe he's in a different room. We know he's not. And there's no color correction. So, I'm putting on my little, professional hat going, not only, I mean, he's using, yes, they always say he has a good eye. Well, he's using cameras that are great and he can
Yeah.
frame things up, but he also has to make sure they all match. And not being the shots, just anyway, I guess I'm kind of on my anti-hot dog kick right now.
Look, I used to be there all the time. I don't know why. I just feel myself going down a different avenue with him.
Yeah,
Maybe I've seen some growth. I mean,
maybe.
a
And
lot of those traits are still there, but I've seen a little bit of growth and a little bit of maybe like, self-awareness, perhaps. I
yeah,
don't want to pull the cart before the horse, but
yeah, you make a good point. He did not make a meal out of this last appearance. He
yeah, go
wasn't
for it.
making it about him. So
You're right.
I'll give him a little credit for growth
All
there,
right.
but let's
All right.
let's tune it up a little bit.
As always, we'll be watching as things develop further with Hot Dog as we
The
do
hot dog watch,
everyone
of course.
in the town square. I almost wore, and I thought you might have too. It's a little bit of a rush this morning, but I almost wore my Edna Faust shirt, and I probably crossed your mind as well. Sometimes we time it together without texting. I mean, I did not know there was going to be a Shamokin update. I was delighted we got one fairly early in the week. Closed again, and honestly, I didn't even know if I knew that it had reopened before. Um, but closed for renovations. um, we learned some things. We learned it used to be a Wendy's before it was a Shamokin Dunkin' Donuts. There are some new stars, and with Jim and Sam, as we always talk about, we know that these new stars are going to come back because I don't remember too much about them, but like a few chuckles here and there. There's some new people in the new news video on the Shamokin.
Yeah, it was great because they did a news story, and then there must not be going on anything going on in that city for the news to cover it like they did. I think that the news, we call them packages. The news package was like 3 minutes, and they started with recapping the old package, so we got to see some of our favorites with Edna and then the young guy that wants to meet there with his lawyer, and because it's a cheap, classy place. He said, I never caught that the first time. Cheap, classy place to hang out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to see our favorites in there. And yeah, and then they did the news story, of it being renovated, which was, could have been just maybe a sentence or two, but no, they did about 2 minutes on it and talking to the foreman and what he's going to do. And then, of course, interviewing some news stars. And that was funny. And there's a lot of lines that we'll share with those a little bit later. But then they talked about the anchor delivering the story, right? The guy that was in the studio taught, looks like he's been there a while, and they looked into his research and how long he's been there. And then the young guy that was a reporter, and how, sometimes these news anchors stay in the market for a little longer than they should, or they just want to be a big fish in a small pond. That guy probably thought I was going to get out, but no, he didn't. So the young kid's there, he always start in a smaller market on his way up. So yeah, that was funny. I mean, I was screaming at my radio because they're talking about, where would this air? How would this, and television's broken down in what we call DMAs, which is our designed market areas or media markets. So like Chicago's media market takes care of parts of Indiana. We know this northeast, northeast Indiana is part of the Chicago market. And then there's Rockford in Illinois, and then down to Springfield and Peoria and so on and so forth. So you have this kind of like circle of where you have it. So New York takes care of a lot of stuff in New Jersey. So that's why Jim was like, we always got New York stations in Jersey. So it was cool. And it was fun to talk about old anchors staying longer than they should.
Yes. And my sister is a reporter, and she's been on a lot of different
I
channels
didn't know
bounced
that. We
around.
never
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about that. We got to talk more about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so anyways, she has bounced around, and I've heard about different people bouncing around and who stays somewhere forever. And there was I mean, one of her early jobs in the Midwest, I'll just say, there was a he was the head anchor, and he might have been like in charge of the station too, like one of those. But I
Yeah.
guess he was there
A
forever.
player manager, if you will, like in
Right,
baseball.
right. And he was there for a while. And I remember my wife, and we were just day at time, went to go visit her, had a nice time, and we went to the studio to get shots of us behind the desk and everything. But while we're there, like waiting, and they're putting the broadcast together, his daughter was in, and he's just like, she's little, maybe like 4 or 5 or something, and he's just like kind of yelling at her, and she's not really doing anything.
Oh,
And then so we're in a different room talking to my sister, and we hear this going on. Then he starts spanking her. We can hear him spanking her.
oh my God.
Like, what's going
In
on? Like, is this
public, but not in public. Yeah.
1964? It was
Maybe it was locked in 1964 and has been in
yeah,
that market
one of
for a long
those. It
time.
was like, I guess since it seemed like the kid was okay, it was funny, but also
Yeah.
kind of terrifying. And
Yeah. Because
I
if
thought it'd be
that's
a
what
good
he's
story.
doing in front of other people he doesn't know, what's he doing at home in
Yeah,
privacy?
so telling it out loud sounds less funny than it was in my head, but
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. Poor,
but
poor little
speaking of,
girl, stupid anchor.
yeah, but speaking of things that are funny, I will
Right.
say that it was a cool surprise to get the Good Liars in studio. Like I don't you don't like I don't think they put it anywhere except for when the guests are in or the morning of. Like we never kind of know who we have never talked about this. We don't know who the guests are going to be.
It's true.
I remember when I think you listened to Stern too, is they would have it like on the website, like here's who's coming up this week. No complaints at all, because I kind of just like it's nice to just be like, oh, Bill Burr's on, or oh, Good Liars. They're just talking about these guys last week.
We
So
only find out in on Twitter or social media that morning,
morning of, yeah. So
that's
I
coming up
kind of
because
like, I kind of
yeah,
like,
John Cena was on Howard Stern. I knew that because they were promoting it way ahead of time,
right,
and I was hoping, oh gosh, I hope Sam's in there. Maybe he'll come talk to Sam, but
yeah,
didn't work out for us that way. But
right.
yeah, you're absolutely right. We've never really talked about that, and I like it at times, and
Yeah.
then sometimes I don't like it because, and maybe there's a reason sometimes they don't let us know in advance because some of the guests aren't always top shelf, and we'll talk about that a little later too.
Yeah. I'd say those times are fewer and further in between. But I think also comics, like you don't know if a guy's going to wake up. Like they try to get Big
That's
Jim
true,
Morrison on a couple times. Guy can't
right?
wake up, and no offense to him, doing a great job on the bonfire. But yeah, so they had the Good Liars in, and I think it was last week, or no, it was a while ago. They played the DeSantis clip, but I think Sam has been bringing him up regularly where they give him a participation trophy. So the Good Liars recap that. Actually hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. They talked about how they caused a commotion pretending to be seat fillers for Jeb Bush. I think they talked about Ted Cruz, and I went and watched the video. Their YouTube's amazing. Everyone's got to watch it. I went and watched the video with Ted Cruz. It's like a short clip, but very funny. My favorite had to be the Trump rally. They're sitting like pretty close to the stage, and Donald, of course, is going on and on. He's talking about his friends, the hamburger he serves at his restaurant, and then the guys just start going, "It's boring. I'm bored. Entertain me. It's boring." And then dude, I was cracking up when they were talking about it. And I watched it. It's even funnier. But my last point on them is their video should have millions. They should all have millions of hits, and they don't. These guys are very underappreciated. I wonder if Sirius just set up this interview, and it sounded like the other ones that day at Sirius, or if they have a publicist. These guys need some help on social and with their publicity, because they're absolutely hilarious, and no one else is doing this like them. I mean, sometimes you see a segment on Daily Show or Eric Andre once in a while. These guys go these rallies all the time, and they're hilarious.
Yeah, I first of all, when they came in, you got the Good Liars here. I'm forget things. I'm a lot like Jim at times. I'm like, who the heck are
Sure.
the Good Liars? Until they talked about the DeSantis participation trophy, and once they said that, I go, oh, those guys.
Yeah.
They were great. They were absolutely
Yeah.
great on air. Now, the thing is that they don't say their names, who they are, too much. I wonder
Yeah.
if that's intentional or not. And I still don't know what each guy's name is, to tell you the truth. But fantastic. The Jed Bush thing that they're complaining about, they stood up and said, yeah, we didn't get paid. We're seat fillers and we didn't get paid for this, which
I
not
need another
getting paid.
250.
Yeah, it was very
Two
funny.
hours.
And
Yeah.
then Ted Cruz was the exorcism. I think they're trying to do that, an
Oh, you're
exorcism with
right. I
him.
think you're right.
And then they got into this little thing about, well, yeah, Ted Cruz is the kind of guy that might sue them. And one of the guys said, it might be worth it to get Ted Cruz to sue you because in a deposition, you get to ask him anything. If they're one side's asking you stuff and getting all the information
Right,
that you
right,
can
right.
ask him anything. So it's like,
Right.
so did you really go and support Trump after he called your wife ugly? That kind of thing. That was funny. And then, of course, the Trump speech, like you talked about. What I liked also was the discussion they had about the Trump supporter that they spoke to in line. I can't remember what the issue they were talking about, but he said, you can't fight fire with water. I've seen fire trucks, and there's a fire hydrant right outside my house, so I don't know if you
I hope you
can or
can.
can't fight fire with water. I think you're supposed to. Very funny stuff.
I hope you can. They're great, and I think that they would not be against anyone saying their names, but seeing as that they're also an improv group, I think they're just kind of used to having a name for the ensemble.
I like it. I mean, it's great, and they were wonderful. So yeah,
Yeah, good name for the group too. Um, Sticking with comedy here, and another good guest this week was Sam Talents, who I don't was he on before? I don't think he was.
I've never heard of Sam before, and I
Right.
apologize, Sam, but I've never heard of him before, and he was
There's a lot
great.
of comics.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
and
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I was gonna kind of throw this more to you because he's doing comedy in Colorado. And it sounded like one time Jim helped him out in I think it was Montreal. He told him to wait. So Jim's like, team. Jim didn't say that. Mark Norman back. Team
Yeah,
could see him. Probably Jonathan, whoever else Jim was working with, and then they joked about how that did nothing for his career. But it's
yeah,
very cool,
but
Jim, to be nice to a
yeah,
comic.
I think he said, "Hey, wait and do your set, or do it again or something
Yeah,
in front of when
yeah,
the guys
wait,
get here." So which is good. Jim's always been really good to other comics that he likes for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about Sam, and he's talking about, he lives near the border of New Mexico and Colorado. I'm like, my ears perk up, and right, and he says he's from Lamar, Colorado. Well, Lamar is like in the bottom right corner of that square state that I call, my home state. And he's like at least 2.5, 3 hours from any airport. So as a comedian that travels around a lot, he's got to be driving unless he has to fly somewhere. That's 3 hours just to get to the airport. Nuts. And he was really funny about, doing, and Jim could relate to this stuff when he's first doing comedy in these areas, buffet lines and kids getting ice cream in the middle of his set. It's like it was nuts. And Texas Oil Man throwing stuff at him. So yeah, he was great. And I hope they have him on again. And it sounded like they really enjoyed his appearance. So it would be great to see him come on a lot because I mean, I'd like to see him like a Mark Norman and an Ian Finance kind of guy because he was great. They really shared a lot of stuff and was really quick witted and could hang with Jim and Sam.
Yeah, I think they liked. I think he kind of came in with a good energy.
Yeah, for
Not to be
sure.
someone who pays attention to energy, but I think he had a good energy. Somebody who experienced some bad energy, and you might be like me, Chris. Is this guy was very kind to us, and we love Troy, but I almost wish that I shouldn't say that. I don't want anything bad to ever happen to Troy. But if the trip was maybe a little worse, it would have been even better radio. I think he knows that. I think he knows that too. But I mean, I'm glad everything's okay. They got to the Airbnb first. To recap, they lost
Excuse me.
luggage on the way to a friend's wedding in Mexico. His fiance, who's a wonderful chef, had made a cake or had some components of the cake that she was trying to take with. But they eventually got to their Airbnb. It was like the 15-hour delay, right?
Yeah, I mean, his IG was wonderful, just following along with everything that's going on. Yeah, I think if you're going to call our show here, our town square, infancy and its teenage years, maybe now, Troy is our first love because
Yes.
he came on our show, one of our first celebrities, if you will, to come on this show. So yeah, he's always going to have a special place, and he's quite responsible for the name of the show too. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, he was a great follow on Instagram. His saga of being delayed and the cake not making it in the suitcase, and we thought he would come home just livid, and he didn't want to go to this wedding in the first place. And things got resolved, but the guys were joking. What if Troy was actually just going down there to get married himself and throwing the guys off the scent and not inviting them? So that was
That
funny
was
as
very
well.
funny. Yeah. And just more with Troy, like just behind the scenes when we were trying to get him on the show, just super nice and enthusiastic, still supports the show. Great guy. Love
Yeah,
Troy.
I mean,
Glad
we
everything's
were
okay.
we were doing the show for about a month, and
Yeah,
he
it's
was
pretty,
able to
yeah,
come on. I'm like, they didn't,
right.
no one knew anything about us. Now everybody
No,
knows
yeah.
about us and loves to comment on our YouTube page about us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, good man. Um, so Nikki, Jim's Nikki, Mrs. Norton. Uh, I saw the video before they even talked about it.
Me
She
too.
just seemed cranky in the video, and we love Nikki. And she was great on our show with Jim. Um, but she was cranky, and she was like, "I hate these Kiss posters." She's just showing them, and we've heard for 2 years now that there's a compromise. She might get to paint a wall, it might be some furniture. She lives a nice life with Jim. Jim just likes his posters. They're on the walls, and they're not covering all his walls because we're seeing more video of his place. Like they're sparingly put around, but an issue is they are just kind of a lot of times just the ones that are coming or going are just kind of on the floor.
Yeah,
My place gets like this too with some collectibles. Yeah,
I would have a huge issue if I were Nikki too, if those were still on the floor. I don't mind them being on the wall. Of course, he deserves to have them on the wall, but he's
yeah,
flattening them. He has weights on them. He's doing all his stuff.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
seen in his video, he's bending over and showing his butt crack because his pants don't stay up for some reason, trying to work on these Kiss posters. So he has every right to do it. It's his place. It's his stuff. Fine. But if I had to live with somebody like that, I'm like, yeah, get your Kiss posters off the ground, man.
yeah,
Let's go.
yeah.
And then something else I noticed them talking about a couple times is that Nikki's cranky because Jim said she's trying to quit something, but they never alluded what she's trying to quit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she's a smoker or anything. You have any idea what she's trying to quit?
No, and I don't. If it was anything like super serious, Jim like would probably like. I don't. Jim doesn't hide anything. I don't think it's
No.
anything like crazy because Jim just says stuff matter of factly, I think sometimes
Yeah.
without realizing people like us will take a deep dive and try to, tinfoil hat, figure it out. My guess would be something like smoking. Um,
Yeah.
and he went on it was a good tangent about how talking about airplane travel this week about how if when you try to quit smoking, he thinks that leads to some of these altercations we see. And he also mentioned how alcohol could do that too. So maybe
Yeah.
that's just kind of where that happened and his brain was going there. I don't know. I'm
I don't
guessing
know
something
either.
like that.
We'll
I
get
think
we'll,
she's fine, but a little cranky.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get it down. Like we're
Yeah.
getting all the videos of all these, and you called the ball on this one when we talked to Jim and Sam independently, but on the same subject about now we're getting all the stories we heard on the radio months and months ago. Now we're seeing the
Yeah.
video to support those, like Jim's video, we'll talk about a little later from this week. We get to see those stories. So, it's I'm sure we'll get what Nikki's trying to quit and what she's struggling with, and we still need her to get into the show. So I hope that happens soon too.
Yes. And it'd be awesome if it was just like something ridiculous like marmalade. She loves marmalade.
She loves marmalade. She's trying to
Brought
quit there. And you know what? I thought Nikki was going to be on the show this week too because she woke up at 7 a.m. on one of their Instagram things and she was walking with Jim as Jim was leaving to go on the show. And it looked like she was going with him to go on the show. So
Yes.
I was like, I don't know if you saw that
Thought that might
Instagram.
be
Like
the
I was
day.
like,
No, I didn't
this
see that.
is this a day? Yeah.
And a reminder for people who haven't listened to our interview with Jim or watched our interview with Jim and Nikki, which they were amazing. Jim gave us the exclusive that within he was trying to time it with Sam's new baby. But he said maybe within the next couple of weeks here, you could
Yeah.
see Nikki in studio with Sandy Kane because she's a huge Sandy Kane fan. So
Yeah,
they
and I
gave us
think Jim is traveling this weekend for the start of his tour. So
right.
yeah, he's got to
Yeah, we'll
fit it in
see.
between those dates as well.
Yeah, we will see. Speaking of Jim, and this is more up your alley, Chris, is that he is learning some video editing, and I mean, it's interesting that he would take so much on because I know like he sends some stuff out for people to cut clips, and those clips are great. And the
Right.
guy edited the video with the mattress, phenomenal. You could see the many stains.
The
But
enhanced
what
video for sure.
what software is he learning? And do you think this is all like pretty time consuming for him to do this?
Yeah, we know Jim learns a certain way, and he's not an unintelligent man, of course, but sometimes it's a little harder for him to learn some of the things like this. But yeah, she's teaching him Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
Premiere Pro is Adobe's product. Photoshop and all those kind of things are part of Adobe. So he's learning that. Now I edit on Premiere Pro as well. It's not my favorite. I'm a Final Cut Pro guy because I like Apple products and I do this podcast on Final Cut Pro and a lot of the other work that I do because it gives me a lot of chances to put a lot of graphics and a lot of build-ins and I just know it better, right? And that's why I thought it'd be good for Jim to use Final Cut. I know Sam uses Final Cut Pro as well because it's made for more stylized stuff that you can do. And Premiere Pro is used mostly by everybody else in the world, But yeah, it's more appropriate for guys what Jim's needs are and what Sam's needs are. But what I found out is Jim is just using Premiere Pro, I believe, to make simple edits and work in the same project as his editor, the gentleman you're talking about that did the PP mattress video. He can send notes in there. They can work in the same project,
Oh, very
and he
cool.
can put notes in there or make a simple edit, and the guy can take it from there. Like if Jim decides where the cut should be made, right? Then the guy could see that cut and then do transitions or do something like that. So I think it's why learning Premiere is because they can share the same project a little easier.
That's interesting. Honestly, like when I do my interviews for Forbes, I should probably look into that. Mine look very basic, but
Well, you have a friend that's an editor that could probably help you if you
I think
wanted to
my
do
friend's
something.
pretty busy with our podcast at his own.
Yeah, but your friend would do that for you. I mean,
Maybe I
you
have
can
to
teach
send
me
him
how to
some.
write better for, because you have
I
articles.
appreciate it.
I
I
saw a
appreciate
great
it.
article on Terminator 2 with Little
Ah,
Henderson coming out.
thank you.
That was fabulous, and I know
Thank you.
one hopefully is coming out soon on our friend Jim Norton. So
You keep your eyes peeled. It will be up there very soon. But going back with the mattress video, everyone
yeah,
has to check it out. It's amazing on YouTube. Like I love that whether it's Jim or Jim and Nikki, I love that there's just so much going up on their YouTube. It's awesome, and they
it's
should
my
definitely
favorite.
keep doing
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
it.
Yeah,
No,
it's a favorite kind of video that I love, and I know you're a big fan of these guys too. Impractical Joker, like to
no.
me, when Jim's in the store
Yes,
and
yes.
blatantly telling people, "Yeah, no, I peed in my mattress a lot. There's a lot there. You got to, it's just I need to get a new mattress. Do you have a black light so I can see the pee in my mattress because I peed on it a lot. Just all
Amazing.
these people learning all this private information. Even a guy walking past him on the street, Jim times out that he said, "Yeah, no, I pee on the mattress, and that's why we need to be shopping here." I love that stuff where it's just as embarrassing to the person there. I have a friend that would purposely say things just to make us laugh.
Oh, it's the
He went
best.
to a short story. He went to a Taco Bell, right? And he made his order, just getting something small, and his order came out to $3.33. And he goes, "Oh my goodness, that is so crazy. That's awesome. You want to know why it's awesome?" And the person helping him go, "Yeah, sure. Why is it awesome?" He goes, "Because that's three. That's how many toes I have."
Oh my God.
He doesn't have three toes, but he's just doing that to make us laugh, right? So he just says these weird things to make us laugh out of the blue. So Jim saying, "I have a PP mattress. I pee a lot in the mattress out in public." Just Impractical Joker, like it made me make me giggle. So that's a
Well, it
great
was
video.
great. It's not just that he was going in saying that to look for help. After they told him they didn't have black lights, he would still say, "Yeah, but it's for the stains on my mattress. This is why I need it." Like
Yeah.
he's aware they already told him they don't have it. He should move on, and he's just letting them know. And the great point about Impractical Jokers and Jim and Sam are friendly with all those guys. Can you imagine Jim Norton on Impractical? Like that would be great. Like you go back and watch his. They've talked about this recently. His prank videos with Club Soda Kenny and Florentine, where Club Soda Kenny's slapping him
Yes.
in a
Yes.
luggage store. Jim is in this mattress video. You can watch him keep a straight face, look right in the eyes of who he's talking to, and go on about it. Keep a straight face, not be too much of a ham or play it up too much. Like he would be awesome on Impractical Jokers. I would
And isn't
love
it
for him to.
funny? Yeah, he would be awesome to do because
And they have guest stars all the
they have
time.
guest star because of what's his name leaving.
Joe Levin, yeah.
Joe leaving, yeah. So they have the three guys and guest stars. They had Kim Fields in, I think, recently. But yeah, Jim is interesting because he's so good at it. But we heard last week, and he was convinced otherwise, that he hates pranks. But he doesn't hate pranks. He was pranking
He was
people in that
pranking
video.
people. Yeah, just like
Oh,
Paul Greedo, right?
exactly. Yes,
Right,
he does love that water.
right. So we got to see the return of somebody though, with all these people out, and I always liked Thumbs Up AJ, even though his bits were a bit forced. You don't know if Montone was kind of working him up to go in there and do the thumbs up or do the mustard prank. I guess it's a prank that
Right.
Jim hated that I loved when he poured mustard all over himself before his internship was up and said what did you say? Here's your mustard daddy or something like
Yeah,
that
it
to
was
Jim. And
weird. It
Jim
was
was really
weird.
put off by it. But he was back. He was back on Wednesday
Filling in, yeah.
and filling in for Travis. And it's interesting to hear because a lot of times I'll get in the car and Faction Talk will be on. I can't believe that's the name still. It should just be
It's
like the Jim and Sam
horrible. The
channel.
worst. Yes.
But anyways, Eddie Trunk will be on. I don't listen a lot to the show, but it's interesting, and I know he's got a fan base, especially with rock. And so AJ works for him, and AJ got to go to a show kind of shindig in Vegas and meet Ace Frehley, which was pretty cool. Were you happy to hear AJ back?
Yeah, because you want guys that do internships to get the job and doing things. And he wasn't obtrusive. He wasn't trying to make it all about himself,
Right.
which I love too. They talked to him about stuff and he gave his 2 cents and did the job as best as he could. It's funny though. I did hear Jim getting all upset because he wasn't sure if anybody cleaned his microphone because it smelled funny. And you can see that if Jim needs the same people doing the same type of work. I think he feels comfort in having
I
people
agree
that,
with that though
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I'm the same way, and it's
yeah.
not so that was a good point. And then Jim kind of made a joke out of like,
You're
making
making
it
the
sound.
sound on it. Yeah,
But
for sure.
also, this was a point I was going to make, and I almost forgot. But you see what happens when, especially Travis, but also Troy are not in. Somebody forgot to hook up the iPad, which I think is how Jim sees Sam, right?
Yes, it is. Yep. And it
And
wasn't plugged in
somebody
properly.
forgot that. We're gonna talk about a certain guest later, but a guy just came with the guest. They had no idea who it was. Like
Hmm.
this stuff, now terms of service has become like kind of a funny gag. But as much grief as people give Travis, everyone knows that Travis like helps that show
He
run so
keeps that
efficiently.
ship on the water heading
Yes,
towards
always
its
has.
destination.
He
Yep.
always has. So you feel it when he's out for sure. And same
Absolutely you
with
do.
Troy. Speaking of things that are, I guess, are going to be on their way out, perhaps it sounds like
Perhaps.
the old Soho House is kind of taking a hit. We've heard Jim's story about meeting people there. It was actually Mark Cuban's, I guess he has a production company, and they had no idea who
Yeah.
Jim was. I want to hear more about this meeting. Actually,
Me
like
too.
Jonathan set this up, and they like there was a miscommunication. Like you're gonna pitch these guys. They had no idea who he was, but great story Jim told about that this week. And you have a little
It,
anecdote about Soho House.
yeah, I don't really like these places either. They seem pretentious. I don't want to be in the in crowd. I don't really care about that.
Yeah,
We both have met many famous people throughout our careers, right? And
love
it's
them.
very cool to meet people and take pictures. That's fun. But the best thing is when that famous person, in my opinion, knows who you are. So if you run into somebody,
Yes,
like if you saw Jim
100%.
Norton, he would go, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" That's cool. He knows who you are,
Right.
and it's not just you. So I don't, the whole being in the in crowd doesn't do anything for me. My oldest son, worked at Soho House here in Chicago and then moved out to New York and worked at the Soho House, the original one, in Manhattan. And, had a lot of those type of stories. And then why he didn't work there any longer, which makes perfect sense, is that he's very charismatic, did a great job bartending, but they'd have to share tips, right, with other people, other bartenders, waitresses, and that kind of thing. So if there's a person that doesn't work really hard at making the customer happy,
Yeah, I understand.
it doesn't, you don't get any, they get the same money. It was bad situation. So
Right.
he did that. Now he's a general manager of a new place that is, of course, on the street where Taylor Swift used to live, that Troy frequented. I think it's called Cornelia Street,
Okay. Yeah.
and is doing other things there. So that's pretty cool. That there's some ties to Soho House and in our family. And so yeah, I remember some of those inside stories about how creepy he is. Have you ever been to one?
Yeah. So I was gonna say we need a New York trip to visit your son and see Taylor's house, that old house, and maybe the boys. But yeah,
Yes.
no, I did one time. In Chicago, I was interviewing somebody who was really nice. That was kind of in charge of uh comic book conventions, and they're doing a really cool thing. And now they're doing a different kind of comic book convention. But anyway, it was a great interview. Really interesting stuff about that world, and bringing celebrities into it. But they wanted to meet at Soho House, and the person was very nice, very successful, great interview. But in general, I just wasn't impressed. I don't know if it's just the one in Chicago, but like, okay, like you got to belong here. It's like, it's okay. There's a
Yeah.
couch. Like we're
Yeah.
upstairs at kind of an old, like a lot of wood bar restaurant. Like, okay, like,
I think there's a hotel attached to them
yeah,
too,
you
so
can
you can
stay
stay
there.
there, and
I just
there's
wasn't
levels
impressed
of
with
privacy.
everything you
Yeah.
hear about it. It's like,
So yeah, the
who
New York
cares?
Post had the article about maybe the time has come, for Soho House, and maybe they're on the decline, and
Oh
we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. That's what it was.
We'll
Um,
see.
but I don't know how to segue to this.
I
And
do.
okay, do you want to? I'll let you. I'll let you.
Yeah, let me segue to this.
Okay.
Hey, Town Square listeners, do you want to be bored in an interview?
Oh man.
Sure. Invite Ian Halpern. I don't even know how to pronounce Halpern,
Halperin.
his name. I disliked this guy when he was coming in for Opie and Anthony. He's a bore. He's pretentious. I don't ever worry about him coming on the town square so I can MF him kind of here. That was just pulling teeth. And it just, who cares what this guy's doing? Who
Oh,
cares? And I'm feel sorry that Jim and Sam had him on or had to take him on. I think Sam was away, so Jim had to do the heavy lifting in studio. So tell me a little bit about
yeah.
what your thoughts were.
Yeah, why? And also to be fair to Sam, and we both agreed with this. Sam is seamless at home. I think going back to the pandemic, you don't know that he's not there. He does what he usually does. But it was a tough segment. It was a tough interview. I love that. I love that this is the first time you've MF'd somebody.
Oh,
I love
geez.
how, I mean, and
Well,
people call
I
in
have
sometimes
before.
when he's on too, and have in the past that
Yeah.
he's controversial because here's what I don't enjoy is that I think his voice is a little bit of a put on. I think he does
Hmm.
Judah Friedlander, the comedian, the world's best guy with the trucker
Yes.
hat, was on
Sure,
30
sure.
Rock. Maybe they just sound alike. I think his voice is a little bit of a put on. And it's when he tries to be funny, it's a little cringy.
And
This
he always puts like, and
sounds
Jim, you were there, making
yeah,
them do
yeah. I
something
said check
bad.
with Sam
But
Roberts.
Sam,
And he
I
doesn't,
could have sworn Sam was behind me
yeah,
when I did it. I'm like, you're not on
yeah.
this first name base. I mean, yes, he is because he's
No,
been
he
with
he knows them
forever.
well. And
He knows him well, but it just seems you're right. It's a put on. And even so much
not a funny
so,
one, not a funny or
no.
interesting one.
What happened with who he brought in there too? You remember want to tell that story?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was saying about with whoever's helping with production when Travis isn't in is like it's just some guy Tom, and it sounds like he financed this movie.
I think he's an actor in it too.
Is he an actor? I thought he might be a
Yeah, no,
producer,
I think he
actor,
was in it. I think he's
financier.
an actor in it. Yeah.
But it basically just some guy named Tom, and like he's like in finance, and he's just there, and nobody knew who he was. But yeah, if anyone knows, comment on because Ian was with Jim with Opie and Anthony, I should say. I remember
Yeah.
him a couple years on there before Jim and Sam. But like, what did he work on the show? Like he knows everybody.
I think he did some
Didn't
investigative reporting at
He
one
might have done some
point. So
stuff
he
for
was
them like that.
so it's a
Yeah,
little interesting. I think he writes books and that kind of
writing
thing. So
books and like,
yeah.
and also just to go with all his like, and what is it? El Chapo parody or what is it? The
It was
movie.
something along that.
Well, the movie sounds terrible. It just
Seriously,
does.
I don't ever skip ahead, but I skipped ahead in this one. I was like, is he the last guest on this episode? Because I don't care.
I
I don't
think it's
care.
fair. We love everything Jim and Sam, but Ian
A bore.
is a bore. And
If I was with the the guys that were in, I would have stood up and said, "This is boring,"
boy,
just like they did
entertain
at the
me.
Trump thing. Yeah,
So I think Ian Halpern now makes Ian Fidance look like Jim Carrey. I would
there
say.
you go. Exactly. Good
And
point.
look, and I like Ian Fidance. I just when
Yes.
it's there, when he the first few times he was like the actual co-host, not just a guest. It was a
Yeah.
little off, but I like it. I like Ian Fidance. I think he's very funny. I think
Yeah.
he's good on the show. But anyways, yeah, tough listen with Ian Halpern. You get in his like gossipy like work, like reporting. I think it's always completely made up. Jim gave him credit for saying an A-list actor has AIDS,
Yeah.
and Jim was saying, "Oh, that was Charlie Sheen. You were right."
Hmm.
When was the last time? Not to disagree
Broken
with Jim,
news.
but Charlie
I
Sheen was
think,
an A-list actor in the 80s. You
yeah,
can say that.
Jim's reaction to Tom showing up too, and I was like,
He's like, "Who's this guy?"
and who are you? You're Tom. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Tom's here. I'm like, who is this guy? And Ian should have introduced him. Hey, man, it's good to be here.
Mm.
This is Tom. Tom was in the movie, or he's a finance guy, or whatever. All right, I'm done with Ian
Yeah,
talk.
we said all y'all got to say. Um, they did the little rap that I enjoyed on superhero movies on Thursday because Jim only likes movies with the Joker, but he doesn't like. And this is fair. This is how I am. Jim hates comic book movies. Sam doesn't really like them either.
Yeah,
Which I disagree. I obviously my background, I
you
enjoy those
love,
kind of
yeah,
movies.
of
I love
course.
them. But Jim likes Joker movies. He loved Heath Ledger
Of
and
course.
he liked Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal. But like myself, he despised Jared Leto's portrayal
And
in
that was
Suicide
in
Squad.
the spin-off one,
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Yeah, the first Suicide Squad.
Yeah. but this got me thinking. The Jim does a great Joker impression. We know
Yes.
doing all this content.
Batman.
Exactly, that's perfect.
Not bad.
Why not while he's doing all this content with Nikki or just himself? How about come Halloween, we see Jim full costume, full makeup, do the Joker? Like, would that be the greatest thing ever?
That absolutely is a great idea.
I think it's
You've
amazing.
had a lot of great ideas on this podcast, but I would love to see
Yes, have you?
instead of, Jeff the fireman, master of fish, let's see the Joker in
Yeah.
Jim's
How
perfect.
about, dude, how about like everyone's confused why Jim is late for the Halloween parade and
Yeah.
in walks the Joker, full
Yeah.
makeup, full costume.
Now, I know you're a fan of the British Office, but the American Office had an episode for their Halloween where Creed came as a Joker and looked great. Kevin tried to do it in the
Oh,
same
very funny.
episode.
Very
It
funny.
was really funny. So anybody sees that, that's pretty good.
Very funny. And last thing with the superhero movies they're discussing, they watched the Madam Web trailer, and it's like the guys maybe weren't aware of all the news kind of with Madam Web because it absolutely tanked.
Yeah.
And
Did you watch the trailer?
I did watch the trailer, and there was a line that trended right when the trailer dropped, that everyone made fun of on Twitter for days about how, oh, he was with my mom in the Amazon researching spiders when she died. And
I
Jim and Sam
remember.
actually talked over that. I wish they would
Yeah.
have caught that, and
Yeah.
and I guess they didn't see that trend on Twitter because it was such a ridiculous line that wasn't even in the movie, people are saying. So
Oh, wow. It's one of those. I hate when the
so
trailer has stuff that didn't even make the movie. Yeah.
yeah,
I saw the trailer. Trailer wasn't bad. I mean, heck, if it was
it
on
looked terrible.
television, I would sit there and watch it probably. But the acting by Dakota Johnson was just horrific.
People said
I
she
just,
put zero energy into it.
yeah,
Pretty much.
she's a bore. And, like the only thing,
Boring.
yeah, boring. Which 50 Shades of whatever she was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was interesting in that because she was, beautiful and young and was being taken advantage of and all that kind of stuff. But she can't carry something like this where you need to be strong. And yeah, it looked boring. And then Sydney Sweeney, who is, the it girl right now for if they still had Maxim's, top 20, whatever, she'd be number one probably, is in it as well. And I didn't see anything in the trailer that made me go, oh, I got to see this. So.
No, and Sydney Sweeney's costume was awesome in that. And no knock on Sydney Sweeney. We are
Right.
huge Sydney Sweeney fans here because somebody may interview her soon.
Oh, no, I'm not knocking her at all. I mean, she is gorgeous. She
We are
is the it
stands.
girl.
We are
Yeah.
stands.
I just have to be careful because I'm an older gentleman with daughters the same age. So,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
I don't really want to be that guy. But yeah, she has a lot of gifts, let's just say.
I agree with you. And she is the first White season White Lotus. She's awesome. I have not seen Euphoria.
Yeah.
People love her in Euphoria as
Yeah,
well.
I haven't watched Euphoria either, but yeah, White Lotus, she was fantastic. And
Yeah,
that's
she
the first
was.
time I've ever saw her. So
You ready for best guest?
yeah, my best
right.
guess is No, of course not. Go ahead. You go.
Well, we have Ian Halperin. We had Sam Talent. We had who else is that?
The guys from
Oh yeah, Good Liars.
Good
It's
Liars.
easily the Good Liars, I would think, just because what they do is so interesting. I know you're a big fan of Sam though with Colorado Connection. You
Yeah.
agree with Good Liars?
Yeah, it was tough for me because it was obviously between, well, maybe Tom was just kidding. I think between the Good Liars and Sam Talent. That's a tough one. I love them both, but just I have that Colorado connection. So I'm going to go with Sam because I knew nothing about him, and to have the Colorado connection, I thought he was fabulous and hit it out of the park his first time in the studio.
It's not easy to do, so that's
Yeah.
memorable.
How about you?
Yeah, Good Liars for sure.
Yeah.
I go with Good Liars. Getting to line of the week. Do you have finalists?
I just have
You
one.
have one.
I just have one, and I hope I don't take anything from you. But this is
I'm
going
worried
back
you
to
are. Worried you are. Does it have to do with
Okay.
Shamokin?
It sure does. Why don't you go? Because I always steal things from you.
Is it a gym line? Is it a gym line?
It is a gym line. You go ahead. Go ahead, man.
I appreciate your generosity. I hope it's not the same one because there's probably a couple that.
Yeah, it could be a couple. Yeah, hit it.
Does it have to do with practicing law?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Do yours first.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, they're talking about the renovation, and when we got to meet the new people, right? The new people in the story. One of them was talking, and Jim says, "Oh, this is nice. It's like what you have to do after methadone." This person really did look like a meth addict.
Yes.
Unfortunately. So this is what you do after you have methadone for the day.
Poor resident of Shamokin. Okay,
Yes.
mine, same break, but it's when Jim and Sam were joking about the guy before who eats his lawyer at the Shamokin Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
And
Because it's clean. I'm sorry, because it's clean and classy. Just want to
clean and
point that out.
classy, yes.
There you go.
And
Go
that
ahead.
guy's growing on me almost as much as Ed in the Faust. That guy's very
Sure.
funny, and they keep
Get us a
kind of going
t-shirt
back to
made,
him.
please.
They keep going back to him, and then Sam joked that the renovation is to add a law center in the Dunkin' Donuts. And then Jim goes, I'd like to file a writ of habeas corpus, and I'd like 6 munchkins.
That's perfect. That was so good. Yeah.
That was like right away. I'm like, okay, I'm writing that one down.
That's when Jim is at his best for me, is when he, because he's so smart. He'll use a word in a vocabulary well, and then tag it with something that's stupid. Munchkins and habeas corpus. Love it.
Yeah, and it's not just how brilliant and what he can work in. That's a very good point about that. But it's also how quick it flies out. That's why he's a legend. And you are a legend, Chris. And thank you everybody for watching and listening. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And please check out Scott's articles coming out because they are fantastic.
Thank you.
And of course, everybody, thank you so much for coming and sticking with us here in the town square. We might find out what Nikki's trying to quit, but please, guys, don't quit us here in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.